What's up? It's your boy Ricky. So today is September 20th. Today we're gonna be working on the IS. We have a new bumper, a rep of HKS rear bumper with a diffuser with it. So let me just switch the camera. So this is the diffuser that we have, and we're gonna paint it gloss black. And it is the rep HKS rear bumper. So the original HKS rear bumper, it will have the HKS in the middle right here engraved. I'll put in a picture of it.
See how when Duraflex they make their fiberglass stuff, there's like these little pinholes, all these imperfections. Like for the obvious people that like want to do their own type of work, it really people don't really want to do it because of this. But I want to show you guys that it's actually fixable and you guys could do it yourself at home. And like, you know, if you have the right tools and all the proper things, you know, you're able to have a really nice bumper, you know, without like all like paying like the body shop and stuff, you know, because it's really like tedious and a lot of hard labor, but I promise you it's worth it at the end. So once we get this all like sanded down, like I already knocked down a couple of bubbles around here and stuff like that, and like right now it's actually pretty smooth. It just needs filling right here, but we're just knocking down anything that's like visible to the eye. And like even right here, if you can see like little tiny little fracture right here, like it's not that crazy, because once we add like the filler and stuff, it's not going to be as noticeable. And why we use dish soap is because it gets rid of a lot of grease. It gets rid of all the grime, the dust, anything that's gonna, any kind of contaminants, it'll get rid of. So that's why we're using dish soap. Once we're done cleaning this part up, we could actually let it dry and we could actually do the body work on it. It's not going to be too major because we're going to do glaze putty fills, and then probably just hit it with just regular primer, because there's no point in filling up all these holes with the primer, because this part is like 99% all primered, so we don't really need to do much to it. That's so gay. They did not include a freaking stick with this. What the fuck?
So when I went to go pick up the bumper, this was already damaged. So right now we're gonna be using epoxy, Gorilla epoxy, and Joseph's gonna be doing that right now.
Let's get this thing off. Ooh. Okay. What I see a lot of people do with epoxy is they usually use this as like a mixing tray. Don't do that. Do it with this. This is way more, it's just plastic, so it won't really like absorb as much. So we're gonna mix a 2-part epoxy. And then we're gonna mix it around. We're using a pencil because that's all we have. Oh, it smells like ass. And basically it'll get to this consistency of a color. And then we're just gonna keep mixing it, and then keep mixing it, just making sure everything is thorough. Get a big glob of it and put this under. Ooh. And then basically open up this crack and lay it down, and then fold it back in. I recommend to add a heavier coat, so it's like, it'll actually stay, because it's not a big deal to sand epoxy. It's really not a big deal, because either way we're gonna still have to prop this up and see how it fits, and then we have to do any modifications. Like sometimes biggest issues with bumpers is that this line and this line doesn't fit properly. So that's not a big problem, because you just have to block sand and you have to go little by little. It's tedious at first, but hey, like just do it. It's gonna make your life. My recommendation is don't paint the bumper and like do all this body work before you do the alignment, or like make sure that the bumper is aligned, because if you don't do that, then you're gonna have a good looking bumper, but it's not gonna fit, and it's gonna be a waste of time, waste of money. You're gonna have to redo everything. So yeah, we're gonna still do some body work first, and then prop it up after we're done with the body work. It's not really gonna affect a lot of things. But just don't paint it before you prop it. So that's my recommendation. So we'll see what we can do. It seems like that part is almost dry now, so we could actually put some primer on it, and then yeah, so we're gonna wait for this epoxy to dry up, and then once we get that to dry up, we're gonna, no, let's do this. Let's smoothen it out real good. Yeah, man. If anybody needs some epoxy work, hit me up. Just kidding. All right, we're gonna wait for that to dry. Let it all dry up. All right. Whew. Let's go check on that other part. So it's relatively almost dry now. We did sand a crap ton about it, so so the next step is probably filling all the pinholes. And once we fill up all the pinholes and all the little imperfections, and then we'll resand it again, and then we'll probably just rinse it with water. We're not gonna use dish soap because we're using spot glaze putty, and then we'll hit it with primer and then paint it with black. Now we're gonna use the glaze putty. This is the 3M 050 96. It's the Arctic Green glaze putty. This is what a lot of body shops use. This is what I personally like to use compared to Bondos. The problem with Bondos is that it's really watery, and it's just like, it's a fucking mess to sand, and it gunks up your sandpaper more than this does. And I found it. I was about to use my Vons card, bro. all right. So obviously there's this little like what do you call this? Like kind of like a skewer thing. You just poke it in here, and then you have,
It's a pointy nipple.
it's a pointy nipple, yeah. And what you want to do is, usually what I do at the body shop is that ooh, that was a little bit too much fun right there. And we did buy the default one because it was cheaper. It was 13 bucks. So
We're on a budget, guys.
we're on a budget. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna grab. Is it okay if I use this wood?
No.
Okay, never mind. Okay, because it's really watery. Gonna get rid of most of the moisture, so that is not going to be used. Okay, now we're able to use this. So usually what I do is I just grab some of this and put it on the putty knife, because why not? So just
It's not getting on my table.
So put it on this, and basically what you're gonna do is kind of just go in the cracks. Ooh. Make sure you force it down in there, so it's like, it's okay if it's like this, because either way you're gonna resand it and fix it up. So, but right here, well, you want to work fast with this, because the problem with these is that it dries really fast. So just keep that in mind. But what we're trying to do is fill up all these pinholes and stuff like that, and make sure to carry like some tissue with you so you can wipe out the excess of the putty. And just to be safe, again, I'm gonna cram it down in there. Okay, it's okay. You're gonna see how this is gonna work. So right here, there was a pinhole. What we're trying to do is make this look as legit as possible. And then, let's see, this one needs to get filled. Okay. And this works really well. This glaze putty works really well with fiberglass too. So just keep that in mind.
All right, Joseph, what are we doing now?
So we got like most of the stuff all filled up now. What we're gonna do is just sand it. It's not the ideal grit sandpaper, but it's what we're gonna make do. It's just taking forever by doing this by hand. So we're gonna sand it very lightly. We're gonna just knock down most of the green stuff, all the putty. And then once we do that, it should look pretty damn decent. So as you can see, we filled up most of all the holes and stuff. And I'm really surprised how much we filled actually. What do you think, Ricky?
Yeah.
Alright, so next step is to wash it one more time before paint and let dry. Alright guys, so basically we did the first coat. It kind of has like a zebra pattern, but usually when it comes to painting stuff like this, you don't want to go zigzag like that because then you'll leave zebra stripes like that. But thank God this is just the first coat, so it's fine. It's not a big deal, and it's primer on top of that. So basically how you would paint a part is that you'll hit all the difficult parts first. So basically like this, the roundish parts, the corners, the edges, these fin parts, you want to hit those first. If you don't do that, you're gonna have a bad time trying to cover everything. So hit the difficult parts first and then go on to the main body source. And like as you can see, like this is why sometimes we fill like pinholes and stuff, but I'm not too worried about it because the enamel paint that well, it's an oil-based paint, I think, by Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum paint is actually pretty fucking thick, so who knows? We might we'll see how it turns out at first, and then if it doesn't turn out as great, then we'll reassess it. But in my opinion, it's gonna work out. So the way that we're gonna paint this is the way that I usually paint my parts is goes stroke by stroke. Follow the part. Don't zebra stripe. Follow the part. Follow what part the part is going. If it's a straight line, you're going a straight line. So let's get this party on the show, guys. So basically, you wanna see how it's like straight line, no zebra stripes, and hit the edges first. Flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist. Edit that. Flick of the wrist. I'm just joking. Don't edit that.
You heard him, Papa.
And then hit the edges. And just like that, that is beautiful. That part right there is really like that shine. It's gonna matte out sooner or later, but that's what you want. Consistency. And then you hit the other corners. And then with the second coat, it's not like, oh, second coat, I'm done. You gotta look at the part, see like what you need to do. So the fins are next. So we're gonna hit the fins. And then this main square section right here. So follow the part. If you don't follow it, then you're stupid. I take that back, you're not stupid. But flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist. Always do the flick of the wrist. And this is the last part that we're really focusing on now. So hit that with primer, hit that with primer, and then flick of the wrist. And see how there is chemical reaction already. That's fine, that's okay. Either way, we're planning on putting a thick ass coat of the Rust-Oleum. So that's okay. There will be always imperfections while you're doing this DIY at home because you're outside on the elements and you don't have all the right tools to do it. What we have, it's what we got. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna still keep on going, keep going forward until it's successfully covered. So after this, and then, yeah. So we're gonna leave it like this for now, and we're gonna go back and do probably 2 more coats of this primer. After that, we're gonna let the primer, we're gonna leave it in the sun, and then I'll speed up the process to dry it up. And then after it's dried and it's flashed, we're gonna just throw in the black paint. And so we are basically done, but we're gonna check for any like spots that aren't hit, and then we'll hit it. And then after we hit it, we'll just leave it to dry. So, for example, like right here, could use a little bit. So we're gonna just spray a little bit on there, and then right here, and then right here, and then I know that this fin needs a little bit more primer. So, yeah. And one more thing is when you paint your car and when you decide to primer it, you got to think about what color is your car. So, for example, if your car was black, right? If it's black, you're gonna obviously use black primer, because if you use a lighter color and you try to color match it, what happens is that black becomes a lighter black. So you don't want that. We're using silver because silver, usually you can use gray or white. But what me and Ricky realized is that we did his fenders and it was with duplicolors, but in my honest opinion, it turned out exactly like similar as the car. So we didn't really need to do much color matching, and the primer helps a lot to make the color brighten up or lighten up. It all depends, because right now Ricky's car is exposed with a lot of UV damage, so it's better to use white primer to make the silver a little bit more lighter than using gray. Kind of like, with gray, it's like if the car's fine, like, you know, not much damage to it, but because he has a lot of like UV damage, it's better to just use white. Just think about your car color. You know, if it's green, red, blue, you're gonna probably use around like, you're gonna use gray primer. That's probably the best. Any type of like colors that pop, like yellow, like basically the whole rainbow, just try to use like gray primer or white primer. It'll work out. With black, you're always gonna use black primer. Silver, you're gonna always use gray primer. Like I said, the Ricky's car has a lot of sun damage, so it's better to just use white, so the silver pops out a little bit more, and so it matches the car a little bit. You'll see it, the end result after. But honestly, this match, but we're obviously using white primer because this is what we bought, so this is what we're gonna deal with. Yeah, so I'm getting the paint ready. The same steps apply when it comes to putting base coat. So you're gonna hit the edges, hit all the difficult parts, and then do all the easy stuff last. So go with flow. Hit the fins. You don't need to cover them all. Just hit the fins as much as you can. And then hit it like this. Flick of the wrist. And boom. Like that. The edges and everything are semi-done. Now, you could do this. This is how I usually paint, but you could go easy and kind of go how I was doing at first. And I totally forgot about this, so we're gonna hit that. Okay, so the next step is to follow the part. Like I said, follow the part. If you do zebra stripes, it's not gonna look good, especially for parts like this. Okay, you don't need to worry about covering everything. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the main parts that are white right now. This one, you want to be really careful because you added paint on that edge. So usually just add a light coat, because what you don't want is drippage. And I've dealt with that with so many parts with other cars. Like, it took me a while to get good at painting parts like this, because what my problem was is that I always rushed. For example, there's a lip right over there. That lip I repainted, and then Ricky had to repaint because I fucked up. I'll admit it. I fucked it up. Like, I wasn't waiting. I rushed it, and it turned out, it looked okay. But then at the end, the customer went to Ricky and got it fixed. So just remember that you gotta be patient when it comes to painting, because if you don't do that, this whole shit's gonna be fucked, and all your time is gonna be wasted by sanding. And let me tell you, sanding that is a bitch. Sanding black spray paint, doesn't matter what grit sandpaper, even if you use 100, it gunks up your sandpaper and it's just terrible. I painted a whole car with spray paint, and that was like the worst experience of my life. And I just said, fuck that shit. So I learned from all these, and I was able to learn all these opportunities and these mistakes, and learn from my mistakes and become better at what I'm doing now. So honestly, shout out to Joseph, Papa, John, and Ricky for giving me the opportunity to paint parts for them, and I'm really happy that I was able to. But maybe give this like 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna recoat it. I think we're honestly gonna only do like, what do you say, like three more coats, 2 more coats? It looks like it's almost there. It's almost done. Like
Probably like 2 more coats.
2 more coats.
2 or 3. 3 to be safe. There's a
But
mosquito
honestly,
following me.
It's amazing. I'm actually really shocked that this is all from rattle cans too. Like, you just do what you gotta do. Sometimes if you feel uncomfortable with, like, if you're like, oh, that's a big white spot, I'm scared that it's gonna like be a little bit more brighter on this spot. Like, honestly, what you could do is just go really light, and then you don't have to worry about it. Like, you see these, light, light, light. Don't go crazy. Just light coats. Because, for example, right here it's super wet now, right? So if you keep on adding paint, it's gonna drip down. So what you're gonna do is wait another additional 3 to 4 minutes for that to dry. But everything else looks pretty freaking solid. What do you say, Ricky? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, it looked nice. Looked like a panda.
like a smoked panda.
Yeah.
That's what everyone called your Lexus for a little bit, while you had black fenders and a black bumper. I think you're still kind of following that black silver like two-tone, but I think it's gonna look pretty dope. I'm really excited for the next bumper, because I know for a fact that that's gonna take forever. So hopefully me and Ricky, we're gonna do it with 2 people, so we're gonna knock it down real quick. But I'm kind of excited to see what happens. All right, guys. Well, we'll get back to you guys, and then for the second coat, we won't probably record the second coat, but we'll just show you the after results after we're done with the second coat. All right, peace out, guys. And there's one more thing I want to tell you guys. So there's difference between paints. There's oil-based paints, and I believe this is a water-based paint, because a lot of body shops, they will use water-based paints. A lot of paint shops, they will use water-based paints. And the difference between water-based paints and a enamel paint is that it's way more thinner. So you have to really like put a lot of prep work into that before you use water-based paint. So that's the downside of water-based paints. You can always buy Duplicolors, enamel-based paints. They'll do just fine, but my recommendation is that their tips kind of suck. And if Duplicolor is watching this, please fix your freaking painting tips, because I hate it when your tips freaking, you guys make good quality paint. The issue is that you guys just, it drips so much and it ruins paint jobs, and so frustrating. But I'm gonna see, I think it's gonna be ready for the second coat now, so we'll get to that now. I'm gonna so like same thing, just hit it, light coats on the edges, and then make sure to get whatever you're trying to get. Okay. It's actually looking like one solid color now, so that's great. And then once we do one solid color, always make sure to hit the fins. Like, if you have stuff like protruding, always hit the high spots first, because if you don't and you end up finishing it and then you're like, oh, I have to reassess this, and then you accidentally spray it too close or too high or something like that, it's gonna get all fucked up, and that's just something that we don't want. So always make sure to hit all the difficult parts first. And it is looking mighty fine. We're probably gonna do like maybe 1 or 2 more coats and then call it a freaking day, man. Ooh. And then the last step is obviously add clear coat, but the problem is we can't add clear coat because it's a 2 epoxy clear coat. It's a catalyst. So basically you just hit this part and then you grab this out, hit it. It acts a hardener and it basically hardens the whole thing. So, but there is a tip to this. If you guys do end up buying 2K clear and only using it for small projects, you can just always pop it in the freezer. If you guys have like a used garage freezer or something like that, just pop it in the freezer, or you could throw it in a kimchi refrigerator if you want to. I don't recommend it, but you can pop it in there, and then when you're ready to use it, just dunk it in some hot water, let it sit, spray it a little bit, see if it's consistently spraying, and then you can reuse it as how it is. That's how you basically reuse these if you're doing small projects. And this is going to the bumper. I know for a fact that we're going to do a lot of body work on that stupid bumper, so I'm not looking forward to it, but once we do it, everything will be bueno. Are you excited for that bumper?
Hell yeah.
We did. We managed to basically make this look way better than before. I think we have an after picture. Joseph Papa, boop, put it there, I guess. But then, yeah. So this looks way better than what it used to look like, and this is what I'm trying to tell everybody. You can make anything look nice if you put the effort and time. We spent a couple hours on this, but hey man, we got it done, and like, I'm just super hyped about putting the clear coat on because it's already super glossy. Like, but probably the next step is we're gonna wet sand this, and then after we wet sand it, we're gonna add clear coat, and then after clear coat, boom, we're done, boys.
So we're gonna stop the video here. We're gonna come back to it tomorrow.